Doubt is not cured by pretending certainty. It is healed by meeting the risen Christ where he has made himself known. Not all doubt is the same. There is a kind of question that is reaching for light, and there is a kind of resistance that keeps moving the line, keeps demanding one more proof, one more sign, one more condition. John 20 does not flatten those together. Jesus does not treat them as identical. He is tender here, but he is not soft in the modern sense. He is merciful without surrendering the truth. Start with the setting. John tells us, now Thomas, called the twin, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. That small sentence carries more weight than it first appears. The risen Jesus had already appeared to the gathered disciples. He had already shown them his hands at his side. He had already spoken peace into a locked room full of frightened men. Thomas was absent for that moment. We are not told why. The text leaves that open. But it does show us something simple and painful. He missed what the others saw. And absence matters. There are moments you cannot manufacture later. A word spoken in the room, a kindness you are not there to receive, a revelation given to the gathered people of God while one wounded soul is somewhere else. Thomas is not mocked for that absence, but neither is it treated as irrelevant. John wants you to feel it. He was not there when Jesus came. Then the testimony arrives. The other disciples therefore said to him, "We have seen the Lord." That is not a vague religious impression. It is eyewitness witness. They are not saying, "We felt hope again." They are not saying, "We sensed his presence in our hearts." They are saying, "We saw him." The Christian faith is not built on mood. It is built on events. Empty tomb, wounded body, risen Lord. And Thomas answers with a demand. Unless I see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. Notice how strong that is. Not, I'm struggling to believe. Not, help me understand. He sets terms. He names his conditions. He moves beyond sorrow into refusal. In the Greek, the force is emphatic. It is not simple hesitation. It is a hard no. I will not believe. That matters because people often turn Thomas into a hero of honest inquiry, as if Jesus is congratulating him for skepticism. But the text does not flatter him. Thomas is not asking for evidence in a vacuum. He is resisting the testimony of the apostles, men he knows, men who are speaking with one voice. His problem is not that he has no witness. His problem is that he will not receive the witness he has. And still, Jesus comes. That is the beauty of the passage. 8 days later, the disciples are inside again. This time, Thomas is with them. The doors are shut. Jesus came and stood in the midst and said, "Peace to you." Just as before, the same Lord, the same authority, the same calm in the middle of fear. Then Jesus turns directly to Thomas. No one has to brief him. No one has to repeat the conversation. Jesus answers the exact words Thomas spoke in his absence. "Reach your finger here and look at my hands, and reach your hand here and put it into my side. Do not be unbelieving, but believing." That is stunning. Jesus had heard every word Thomas said, even when Thomas thought he was speaking into an ordinary room. Doubt never happens off stage. Your conditions are not hidden from Christ. Your private ultimatums are not private to him. He knows the sentence you keep repeating in your mind. He knows the demand behind the silence. And what does he do with that knowledge? He does not crush Thomas. He does not humiliate him in front of the others. He gives him exactly the evidence he demanded. The wounds are still there. Resurrection did not erase crucifixion. The marks remain, not as weakness, but as identity. This is the same Jesus who was nailed to the cross. The risen Christ is the crucified Christ, alive forever. But tenderness is not the whole message. Jesus also gives a command. Do not be unbelieving, but believing. In other words, stop remaining in unbelief. Move from refusal to trust. This is not a pat on the head. It is a summons. Jesus is kind enough to meet Thomas in his struggle, and authoritative enough to call his unbelief what it is. That is important for you. If you doubt, this text does not tell you to fake confidence. It does not tell you that questions are dirty. But it also does not let you build an identity out of endless hesitation. There comes a moment when the issue is no longer lack of data. The issue is whether you will bow before the truth God has given. Then comes Thomas's confession. My Lord and my God. This is one of the clearest declarations of Jesus' deity in the Gospel of John. Thomas does not only say, "You are risen," he says, "My Lord and my God." Not just teacher, not just miracle worker, not just master returned from death. God. And notice how personal it is. My Lord, my God. The doubter becomes the confessor. And John has been leading you here all along. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, near the end of the Gospel, a disciple looks at the risen Jesus and says the truth out loud, "My Lord and my God." Then, Jesus speaks the line that reaches beyond Thomas and lands on you. Thomas, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. That is not a celebration of blind faith. Jesus is not saying, "Blessed are those who believe without any reason." Thomas believed because of sight. You believe through apostolic testimony. The blessing falls on those who receive the witness God has appointed. John will say it plainly in the very next verses. These things were written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. So what if you doubt your faith? Bring your doubt into the presence of Jesus, not as a badge, but as a wound. Refuse the pride that keeps setting fresh conditions for obedience. Listen to the witness God has already given in Scripture. The apostles saw, they testified, John wrote, and Christ still speaks through that witness. Thomas wanted sight. You have the word breathed out by God, carrying the testimony of those who did see. And Jesus calls that enough. More than enough. Enough not only for information, but for blessing. Enough not only for argument, but for worship. The goal of this passage is not that you admire Thomas. The goal is that you join him. This is extreme faith. Until next time.